Good morning, everyone. I'm going to ride around the world.
I'm Mick Claridge, and I'm going to ride around the world on my bike.
My son, he gave me advice at the start of this ride, and he looked at me and just said, "Dad, don't be a moron."
Let me do my animal signal to gain their respect.
How's it going, Sally?
Yeah, I'm alright, Mick. How's it going?
Worse than that bit in Lord of the Rings where they go into the top and the spiders in the tunnel. I'm just hoping there's a spider at the top of this one to kill me. Freezing.
And I failed. I moroned up the ride.
We've now entered the latter half of the season, and our points leader still hasn't managed to take a win. Haynes' hot and cold streaks are a stark contrast to Hardman's steady, hard work. In fact, after his poor first round, Andrew has only failed to finish on the podium once. Will he keep the trend alive in Wisconsin? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch Round 6 of the Radical Cup Canada Winter Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is IMSA driver Joey Atterbury. Behind the scenes is our director Ryan Bauer, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Road America sees these cars race here in real life along with a plethora of other series. Let's head to our track guide to learn more. Welcome to Road America. Nicknamed America's National Park of Speed, it's easy to see why just by looking at how the track is laid out. Long straights are a major feature, and drivers will build up incredible momentum before they find themselves interrupted by tight 90-degree corners. In fact, for a 4-mile circuit, it has shockingly few turns. It also has little in the way of variation in layouts. The main course is only broken up once with a single chicane added in the bend version. But don't take this to mean that it's a boring track. Elevation change happens many times over a lap, with a few places taking you into corners which are quite blind. But two of the turns on the back half of the course are perhaps the most distinctive. One is the carousel with its more than 180-degree radius. It just feels like it never stops. The other is the kink. Terrifyingly fast with very little runoff, it can end someone's race in a flash. As you'd expect, the heavy braking zones make for some ideal overtaking spots. Turn 5 sees plenty with its downhill entry. The hurried downs can offer drivers a chance at a sneak attack if you're brave, and then Canada Corner gives you one last shot before the lap is over. It's no wonder major organizations such as IMSA, IndyCar, NASCAR, and the SCCA all host major races here. All in all, many drivers rate this track as the best track in North America. Many who hop in the seat and try it can quickly understand why. Well, with 4 miles in length, Joey, this really is a behemoth of a track here in the United States.
Yeah, it is one of my favorites. And you're right, it is very long, over 4 miles in length, and has some huge top speeds. And that means really big braking areas for huge passing opportunities, primarily turn 5. Also, one of the most famous corners in all of America, the carousel coming downhill, that very, very long right-hand sweeper that leads into the kink. And once again, a huge passing opportunity into Canada Corner, the slowest and lowest area on the racetrack. And Joe, it is all uphill from Canada Corner all the way up to start finish. So you better have enough fuel in the car.
Yeah, you're not exactly going to be able to coast it home around here. And considering we do have a pit stop in the second race, we'll get to that in a minute. That could be important. In the meantime, the championship, as I mentioned, sees Andrew Hardman at the top with Joey Haynes still trailing. But Joey's not here this evening. Alex Ellis is, though, and he could make some inroads and maybe switch himself back into second. Not sure that he'll be able to catch Hardman. It depends on what kind of night we'll see Andrew have, as Michael Broomhead is tied in fourth with Patrick Arsenault, who was up towards the top early in the season but has continued to slip backwards. And then it's a very, very tight fight for seventh, only separated by 3 points between seventh and 10th. We also have a team standing. Where is that right now, Joey?
Right now, it's kind of dominated by Britannia iSports. There's a couple teams here in the top three that have kind of run away with it. You see Evolve Sim Sports and also Atomic Racing joining the party there in the top three, and Top Gun Racing there in fourth place. But if you look fifth on back, it starts to really tighten up. Ellis Engineering, Auto Eclectic, Destino Motorsports, Viking Hot Rods, Intrans, Team Lima, they're all in the top 10 there. And through the back half of the season, I'm seeing a lot of these guys be more consistent on their finishes, and that's what it's going to take to crawl up into the top 5 here in the team points.
Absolutely. And for the races themselves, as I mentioned earlier, we've got two of them, a 15-minute sprint and a 30-minute feature. They also have no spare car in either of them, so it's sort of a break-it-you-bought-it situation. You don't want to get damaged, especially at a track that requires high top speed. Drive-through penalty at 20 incidents and its qualification at 30 probably won't be as much of an issue around this circuit, even in the 30-minute feature. Going to be difficult to rack that many up, as there's not many spots where you can dip tires off without clipping the grass at this track. Now, before we get to the racing, we want to mention that this is the official virtual counterpart to the real-life M-Zone Radical Cup Canada. If you're a racer looking to get into one of these thrilling machines for a test day, a race weekend, or purchase a car and join the series, contact Rob Burgess of Radical Canada at robert@radicalcanada.ca to get started. Now, we're in the midst of qualifying right now. They get 20 minutes, and currently they have just less than 10 minutes left to go here, and they are not able to complete these hot laps, so it's going to be imperative that they get out there when it nears the end, and they get on a good lap as Ritters, my goodness, had to really chase the car through Canada Corner, Joey.
Had a little bit of a tank slapper there through Canada Corner, and if I remember correctly, these cars can be a little bit nervous on the brakes, and going into turn 12, as I know it, you're hard on the brakes. All the weight is over the front end and can easily step out on you.
Indeed, and Peterson taking it through one of the most fearsome corners in all of North America, the kink. Very little runoff. They can't actually extend the runoff really as it sits because there's train tracks, there's railroad tracks behind there. So there's no place to put it, unfortunately. And that's kept it extremely old school because of that, as Peterson now looks to try and finish the lap. He sits in 14th, but he's only had a single time down in the first 10 minutes, 12 minutes really at this point in this Q session. So let's see if this one will count. It does look like it's going to be fast, as I'm seeing him tracking about a second faster than his current best. He'll come up to the timing line now, and it's a 2-flat-1. That is going to bump him up into the top 10.
Up into that 7th place position provisionally right now, and I think we're going to see times continue to fall throughout the field because you burn off the fuel, the tensions get higher and higher, the track gets more rubbered in, and just want to go out there and lay down the last lap of the session to snatch away that pole from everybody.
Watching from James Carter's perspective as he flies down into turn 8. Somebody off the track there. That was Steve Ritters, apparently, who had a little bit of an adventure out into the grass and then down through the carousel. There's a lot more drop in elevation than you realize along this part. If you look over to the right, yeah, that hill is basically where you started up at that level, and then you're at the bottom of a cliff as you swing into the kink once again. He's got it nice and steady through there, but he's currently last of those who have set a time of our 20 that have showed up today. So he definitely needs to improve, which Stephen Jeffrey just did. He moves on to the front row.
Yes, he does. Pretty good lap. 159.2 out of the 249, and Joe, you mentioned the elevation change here at Road America, and it kind of comes at certain sections of the racetrack. As we're here with Daniel Salmon going through the kink, this is one of the lowest parts of the racetrack as we go to Canada Corner, which is actually the lowest in altitude, and then you climb all the way up to start finish, and I mentioned it's all uphill. Start finish is actually the highest point on the racetrack.
Yep, so he's going to have to really use all his momentum here. The car has a lot of grunt, but you need every bit of speed you can to try and fight against gravity. Trying to figure out, is that color behind him actually salmon? Would that count as that? Or am I just reading too much into it?
No, I'll give you that. I'll take that.
All right, so to the line here for Daniel, and let's see what it is as he crosses the timing line. It's going to be not much because unfortunately the lap got deleted, so he stays in 15th and continues around his maybe 2 more laps that he can try and set a better time out here. It is steaming hot on the track surface itself today at 115 Fahrenheit, 80 Fahrenheit as well out in the air, so it must be a pretty warm summer day out here in Wisconsin, as usually in the fall or in the spring it's much cooler, so driver is going to be slipping and sliding around.
That's another really good point, and gonna have to watch it throughout the race as well. They are in the afternoon. See if that track temp continues to rise. 115 isn't outrageous, but if it continues to rise, it will definitely affect the cars and their setup.
Peterson heading down towards turn 8. The hurry down is another part where I was really surprised the first time I came here in person and saw just how much elevation change there is from 6 down to 8. Definitely shows a lot better in person than it does on cameras or in the sim. And as he exits out of the carousel, I'm showing him right about where his time was for his best lap. So this is going to be close on whether or not he improves.
Through the kink, it's just such a cool corner, and coming up here to Canada Corner, always a big passing opportunity. You see how hard they are on the brakes, got to slow the car way down, and I mentioned it's all uphill from here, and use even a little bit of the grass on exit.
Well, whenever we have someone on the crew who's actually gotten to drive that corner in real life, I have to ask Joy, what's the quickest thing you've gotten to take through the kink in your career?
Ooh, the quickest? Probably a GT4 car. I haven't driven a GT3 car at Road America, so it'd be a GT4 car for sure.
Well, still probably get some good speed going through there, as Peterson not able to improve that time. In fact, about 5 hundredths off of his best. But I was very curious if he'd driven anything with high downforce and kind of what that experience is like, because to me it would be just terrifying.
Yeah, well, it gives you a little bit more confidence. You just have to understand what's going on. And I think, Stephen Jeffrey, big loose moment. You just have to understand the car. And once you understand that the faster you go, the more downforce and the more grip you have, it actually gives you more confidence to kind of go even faster, because the safety net is actually going faster instead of going slower.
Which I'm sure is an interesting mental hurdle to get over, as Zach Buchanan. Let's see, where is he right now? He's in 3rd. Ooh, and he is looking good on this lap, so that's why we've jumped over to him. And he's got himself about a 10th better currently down through the kink into the kettle bottoms as he looks for the brake marker all along the trees here that line the course, taking you through the woods and then braking hard down to about 75 miles an hour. That looked nice and tidy to me. But it looks like he lost a little time compared to his best lap. It's going to be tight on whether or not he improves.
And actually, the last corner here, I think, is one of the most technical corners on the racetrack. It is so easy to overcook your entry. Looks like Zach Buchanan kept it together here. Should be a decent lap for this number 40.
Coming across the line at 59.3 is going to stay there, so unfortunately does not get a better one. Dave Peterson looks like he might be able to go quicker as we head over to Steve Ritters, who I think might be on his last flying lap, considering it's about 2 minutes to get around here. Yeah, he's not going to be able to reach it in time. And in fact, it's going to be tight on whether Dave Peterson can get around for another one after this himself. I'm watching Dave across in front of us now. Ooh, another driver to dip into the 59s, a 59.9, but Dave stays in 7th, unfortunately.
And I think everybody starting a lap from here on out, they're definitely not going to be able to complete it. Like you said, Joe, they're doing about 2 minutes on the lap time. And you mentioned it earlier, the clock doesn't keep running to finish that lap for these competitors.
Not in this, the way they've set up this session. Normally in iRacing, it would for an open qualifying like this, as Ritters is looking like he might jump up about, no, he might not improve here because he has a ways to go to the next car ahead, a 2:01.92. Oh, it was about a 10th shy of Horvath.
These times are very, very close on the timesheet, especially once you get into the midfield here, Joe. I'm only seeing about 1 second separating, I'll call it 6th through 15th.
Yeah, that is a nice little tight gap between the mid-pack there, so should be pretty fascinating to witness. Buchanan should have enough time to get back to the start-finish line here. Ben Willett abandoned his lap, so he's done. Zach is being chased by Mark Boyd, which, despite having a nice slipstream from that bright blue car, doesn't look like he's going to go quicker this time. And Buchanan, will he stay out on track? Yes, looks like he intends to finish the lap.
If Zach Buchanan can improve his position at all, he's already provisionally 3, but not enough. Misses it by 0.02 of a second. But let's check out here Stefan Jeffrey. He's on a pretty good lap himself. Does he break into the 58s? No.
Oh, wow. It is another 200ths away between Ellis and Jeffrey. The front row so close. Nikotimbev does improve, but it looks like he's our last driver able to set a time here, as that is it. And our grid is locked in for the sprint race. Ellis takes the bonus for pole position, as Stefan Jeffrey will start next to him. Zach Buchanan will be P3. Asad Nikotimbev will be in 4th. And it's Joseph Yang, P5, John Benwillid, 6th, and Dave Peterson, 7th. Christian Jasper is on the outside of that row, followed by Nick Horvath, and Stephen Ritters rounds out your top 10.
There in 11th spot, we have Mark Boyd, Robert Ridgway there in 12th, Michael Broomhead, 13th, Cedric Ohayon, 14th, Daniel Salmon, who we're riding on board with there, rounds out the top 15. Steven Sutherland, 16th, Phil Amaro, James Carter, another one of those onboard cams back there in 18th. Marcel Prophet and Dante Keesp rounds out the 20 cars here for the Radical Cup.
Just about have them all lined up. And remember, 2 races and both offer points. So it is important to finish well, although there are fewer positions that will give you points in the sprint race. It's only down to the 10th position for this one, whereas it's the top 20 in the feature that give points, and there's more of them. So you want better results in the long race, but this could help you overall in the championship. As you can see, we've raised the temperature just a little bit since qualifying, about 1 Fahrenheit higher there in the track temperatures, as the drivers are lined up on, thankfully, a short pace lap for this rolling start. So we'll get going shortly here, but at least at this track compared to where we were last time, Joey, there's a lot easier passing opportunities.
A lot of passing opportunities indeed, and got to be careful on the first lap, Joe. Tire warm-up is always an issue, especially with such aggressive brake zones.
Well, and I wonder about those aggressive brake zones on lap 1 as well, because after so many years of covering races here, I feel like turn 5 is kind of a trouble zone, it seems, the first time in.
It can be, and it's one of the top speed parts of the racetrack, and these cars punch a pretty big slipstream, so I expect probably 2-3 wide even going into turn 5 if the opportunity presents itself.
Indeed. Well, there they go as the pace car takes off. Boy, they gave it quite a bit of space there. Alex Ellis waiting patiently to get the green flag as they look for the rise up the hill. Pace car is already in. He's given it quite a bit of time. Someone at the back there trying to heat up their tires as best they can over the short distance that they have, since they've got the open room. He's given it a long time. Here's Alex Ellis. Everybody's slowly trundling towards the timing line. Still haven't heard the call from the stands yet. And look at how close they are together there at the start. There's the green flag as they start to accelerate away. Stephen Jeffrey has a pretty good jump himself. They're going to be nose to nose as they come up into the first corner. Can he try and go the long way around to take the lead away? He's going to try as he breaks very deep. Ellis is trying to hold him off, and no, Jeffrey cannot do it.
No, but he tucks back in line. He's going to look to the inside here in what is turn 3 on the racetrack. A little bit of contact. Oh, no, a little bit of contact further back. I believe that was Joseph Yang getting into Assad Niketembev.
It was, and it looks like we got more cars off as well. Mark Boyd, Michael Broomhead getting a little bit tripped up off the exit of the corner, down into the braking for turn 5 for the first time. Ellis leads Jeffrey, leads Buchanan. A little bit of a poke from Jeffrey, but nothing doing, and there's that accident I was worried about.
Yeah, 3 cars in way too deep into turn 5. Joseph Yang gets turned around. Dave Peterson is back here. Nick Horvath as well.
Remember, this is a pretty short race, only 15 minutes. So the drivers who had those problems were not going to have much time to try and catch back up to the leaders, even if they have a pretty good pace advantage.
Well, yeah, you mentioned it. If you're out front right now, you're running away from these guys that have the problems. Their race is all but over unless other people have problems on the racetrack.
And another one, Salmon got into Ohio down into turn 8, and both wound up spun around because of it. Everybody managed to thread the needle between them and keep going. As we come back live down into the braking for Canada corner, Ellis is holding off Jeffrey for now, but we're seeing the effects of that giant hole in the air, and Stephen's keeping it within half a second.
And Steven Ritter's a little bit further back, went off at the end of the carousel, but thankfully got it back on track before the kink. And Joe, you mentioned it, there's just a lot of cars kind of all over the place this first lap, but the 3 that are the most consistent have broken away from the rest of the pack.
And look at Alex immediately go down to the inside to break the slipstream. No attack from them down into there. And I kind of saw this one coming. Watch, I think it's the green car coming in deep. Yeah, and unfortunately, Niketembev was there, was not expecting him to suddenly appear at his corner, and that's what sent him off.
Yeah, I believe that was Joseph Yang that got into Assad. And then a little bit further back, this is Mark Boyd, kind of having a little bit of a stack-up incident himself. Got into the back of a car, and then there was just a train coming behind him.
And Broomhead couldn't do much to avoid, unfortunately, and they went off. And then we had the incident down into turn 5. Dave Peterson involved in that. And I'm sure it's got to be difficult to tell where everybody's going to go when you've got so many different racing lines coming into there.
Well, and I just kind of have to chuckle to myself because that all started at turn 3. You saw that group of cars get all stacked up. And here you see that incident with Daniel Salmon, Joe, coming down into turn 8. Really aggressive on the brakes and into the side, both of the cars around. But get to my point, Joe, the turn 5 deal, you have it all stacked up from turn 3, but people are drafting each other, higher top speeds, cold tires, first time in, unknown brake markers, and you kind of see the result.
Now, I'm not sure what Buchanan did here, because he was disappearing and blinking a bit, and then he just pulled off the track and exited. We also had some sort of issue with Phil Amaro. I also haven't seen what exactly happened here. Big chop as he defends to the inside. Whoa, massive accident.
Deja vu of the Ferrari Challenge a couple years ago. Almost identical incident and heavy damage on multiple cars.
Well, and I was there over the summer when the Indy Pro 2000 cars, or it may have been the Indy Lights actually, that had the accident with one of them taking out a whole chunk of fence, and I got to see that live. Thankfully was not sitting at turn 5 at the time, but was off up on the hill just outside of Bill Mitchell Bend. But boy, was it shocking, as the speeds down into there are tremendous. And as we look back at our leaders, because of the loss of Buchanan, it's now down to Jeffrey and Ellis.
Yeah, the 2 out front being the most consistent here. And get another replay. This is Michael Broomhead coming up the hill. So tricky to get that wrong. And does he impact the wall? Yeah, hits the wall, driver's left. So common.
Yeah, just dip those tires off into the grass, and it's going to shoot you across the circuit. pretty quickly, and he was very far off into the grass, just could not hold on to it. Took a big thunk against the concrete. No tires there to try and soften the blow. And for Broomhead, he's had to take it into pit lane to try and take some repairs to get back out onto the circuit. Now, Ben Willett has got himself up into fourth because of some of the attrition, but the car ahead of him here, that's Christian Jasper. He's up 5 spots.
Yeah, Christian Jasper actually just made a really good pass on John Ben Willett, who we're riding with. And you mentioned it, up 5 positions, kind of taking some attrition away from other people and having a really good race right now in that number 8.
He doesn't have the most spots gained. That'd be Dante Quispe in the number 15. He's up 13 positions currently. So we'll watch them head towards Canada Corner once again. Jasper still being hounded by Ben Willett here as we ride on board with the number 8, just clipping the apex through that right-hander and then climbing up the hill.
This is that really technical section of the racetrack. Always tricky to get your brake marker and your turn in here for turn 14, because if you don't get that right, you're going to lose out on the exit all the way up the hill and down this huge front straightaway.
The longest straight on the track here, coming up out of turn 14. Joseph Yang, who is still trying to recover, I'm guessing after losing some spots there with those incidents on the first lap, is catching up very quickly to Sutherland and thinks about a move, but decides it's not close enough to try and do it through the swift turn 1.
We saw Joseph Yang having those problems on lap 1. You're right, Joe. He's trying to make his way back up through the pack. I think he started all the way back up in the 5th place position, so he's definitely got speed, and we're seeing the slipstream effect right now in these cars.
Sutherland's gained 9 since the start. We're watching from Quispe, though, just ahead of the pair of them. Let's see if there's going to be an overtake. Oh, Sutherland goes deep, locks up the brakes, and Yang takes it easily.
I think Assad Nakatembev is going to be next up behind Steven Sutherland right there, because Assad also is working his way up through the pack, just like Joseph Yang.
Yeah, I'm kind of impressed because remember he went off at turn 3 after he got kind of tipped around by Yang earlier, and he's already up to 9th and clearly has a couple more spots probably within his reach here. Past that, he's got to make up almost 5 seconds to get Robert Ridgway, which might be a little bit more difficult. So this could be his best hope right now, just trying to get at least all of these cars that are in a line in front of him currently.
Well, and even behind Assad is Nick Horvath, and I think what impresses me about these battles right now, Joe, is that these are majority of the cars that had problems on lap 1. As you see Steven Sutherland really deep on the brakes one more time, but they haven't given up. They're still out there working their way back up towards the finish.
Yeah, if you've got that track position, stick with it. Try and get those points, and this is just within the point range right now, down to 10th position. So it's worth trying to get whatever you can, as this is a very good run from Nakatembev. It's going to be difficult for Sutherland to hold him off. Let's see. Doesn't defend. Allows him to have the inside, and Yang as well. Going to be side by side down into the corner and ducks ahead of Quispe. So move Yang up into 6th and Nakatembev up into 8th. Kind of
a duo of a pass. Yang around as well as Nakatembev, and Assad now sets his sights on Dante Quispe, who is closely following Joseph Yang, not giving up out of that toe.
Not sure that he's quite close enough, and I think I'm seeing a little bit of damage. Can't quite see it from this angle. Might be the shadows from where I'm watching him. Yeah, look at the right front of the car. Driver's right, definitely bent in as he waggles the tail out of turn 5.
Yeah, and not going to help the car one bit here at Road America, and aerodynamics are important here. I think the motor is actually more important than the aero, but given how high the speeds are at several sections of this racetrack, it's not going to help him. Whoa,
and has to gather it back up coming out of turn 8. That hands the spot over to Assad quite easily, and behind him, Horvath, who's still having trouble blinking, is now rocking up to see if he can overtake him. Once again, very wide. Maybe it's the downforce that he's lacking in a few places as well.
Joe, when it rains, it pours, and sometimes it seems like no matter what you do, you can't do the right thing. I've been there before.
So just a little deep, big correction. Great catch, frankly. He lost his spot, yeah, but he kept it from going into the wall. And then this one, well, maybe it's downforce, maybe it's the fact that the aero wash just was not playing good with him there.
Well, and you saw he just had the wheel cranked all the way and the car wasn't turning, and such a helpless feeling, and all you can do is let off the gas and hope it starts to turn.
Now, the driver that's made really good on this ahead of these two is Joseph Yang, is just absolutely dashed away. He's about 2.5 seconds ahead of them currently. He's still got those 5 seconds to make up to Robert Ridgway, so not sure he'll be able to do that in about 2 laps time, but you never know. We've already seen a number of mistakes out there today, so all he needs is probably one little hiccup from the 17. He could be aiming for a top 5.
And taking a closer look at this number 55, Joe, I know that he had those lap 1 incidents, but I don't see any damage on his car. So, like you said, putting down some really impressive lap times in a clean race car.
That's all he can ask for. And let's not forget that we have the regrid that happens for the top 10. They are reversed for the feature race. So if you're Joseph Yang, he's actually going to be starting 5th if he finishes here, which isn't going to be too much of a difference. So he's not in a bad spot in terms of both points haul and then not having to suffer the penalty of the regrid.
Even Sutherland just had a huge moment down into turn 8. Thankfully saves it and keeps it off of the other cars. But Joe, you're right, that grid, I think it's actually one of the coolest parts about this series is that top 10 invert going into the feature. It just promotes more racing, and as a racer, I love it.
Same. Yeah, it's a nice little feature that keeps them on their toes and makes it a little bit more difficult to do the double, which I believe we've only seen twice so far this season. So not impossible, but certainly requires a bit of skill. As we are on the final lap now, Alex Ellis circulating around one more time. All he has to do is bring it home. He's dropped Jeffrey by about 2.5 seconds.
We haven't mentioned these top 2 very much other than at the beginning, but Alex Ellis has tremendous pace, has the fastest lap of the race at a 158.7. Fastest last lap on track, 159.3. Him and Stefan Jeffrey are the only cars in the 159s.
Ellis is one of those that has done the double. He did it at Road Atlanta, actually. And he's still hustling the car pretty well as it slides out of turn 5. So he is looking for his first win since the feature in that round. And Daniel Salmon's had a couple offs in this lap. Not sure what that's about, but he's dropped a few positions now.
Yeah, going back and looking at it, looks like he just carried too much apex speed, entry speed into turn 1, had a little bit of a self spin. He had some pressure behind him, but gathers it up and gets it back going.
Ellis is tied on wins currently with Joey Haynes, but this will obviously put him ahead. And might actually, in fact, I'm pretty sure it will put him also ahead of Joey Haynes in points and into second. As for Andrew Hardman, he is not here to try and compete with Ellis, so this could be a great opportunity for him to cut down on the number 3 car and potentially even overtake the points lead. Now, remember, they do have a drop week in this series, so that will at least give him a little bit of a safety net for Andrew Hardman. But right now, Alex Ellis, as he comes off the final turn, is going to take victory in the sprint race at Road America.
Just a really good sprint race for the number 5. You see Stefan Jeffrey coming home here in the 2nd place position.
And Christian Jasper getting himself a podium finish in the sprint race, up 5 spots, along with Robert Ridgway up 7 down there in P5. Well done to him. Quispe lost a few late on as we watched Daniel Salmon try to complete this lap. Looks like at least the car is still going, so whatever off he had didn't seem to have hit anything too hard.
No, lost a little bit of track position, going to finish in that. Oh no, he comes into pit lane. Wonder if he's going to give up more positions with this move right here.
he's not got a black flag. I'm not sure what's going on. That is strange. And yeah, he did give up a spot to Mark Boyd. And looks like he got across the start-finish line before Cedric Ohayon, who is missing a rear wing, curiously. He'll thankfully have that fixed before the next race automatically. But that will finish out our order, and it was Alex Ellis taking the win with Stephen Jeffrey in second place. Christian Jasper was P3, and John Benwilid was fourth. Robert Ridgway, P5, is followed by Joseph Yang in sixth, and Asad Nikadambev in seventh. Then it's Nick Horvath, P8, and Dante Quispe, ninth. Top 10 going to be rounded out by Stephen Ritters.
11th here we have Steven Sutherland, Mark Boyd in 12th, Daniel Salmon there we were right on board with, comes home 13th, Cedric Ohayon 14th, and then James Carter, the first car, 1 lap down, Michael Broom had 2 laps down, and then you see Phil Amaro, Zach Buchanan, Dave Peterson, all a little bit further down with problems early in the race.
And they're just going to have a very brief warm-up session here, then it's going to advance over to the feature race. Again, if you didn't hear us before, they will reverse the top 10. So the pole sitter will start from 10th, or well, the winner will start from 10th. Alex Ellis will when they grid the cars up, but they just want to give the drivers a little bit of a break, and then we'll get back out there and get rolling. So I always like to ask this when we have a break in the action, Joey. What do you think are the biggest lessons that need to be taken away from that first event to transfer over into this feature race coming up, Joey?
Now you're gonna say what are the biggest lessons? I don't know if the drivers are gonna listen to us though, which is the biggest problem. But I think is just pump the brakes on lap 1. We saw a lot of incidents when cars were still getting warmed up, and it might not even be the cars getting warmed up. It could be the drivers getting warmed up. So just pump the brakes, if you will, on lap 1. Get settled in, and then get to the racing.
You know, we have to remember, it's not just the tires that have cooler temperatures at the starts of the races. iRacing also models cooler brakes, which I believe, from what I've been told, does affect the braking power of these cars. As here is your starting order. For the top 10, Stephen Ritters will be on pole. Dante Quispe will be in second, followed by Nick Horvath in third. Asad Nikadambev will begin from P4. I'm sure he'll want a little bit of a cleaner race because he started from P4 in the sprint as well. Joseph Yang will start in fifth right behind him. That's bad news for Asad. Robert Ridgway will be sixth, and John Benwilid seventh. After that, there's your podium finishers of Christian Jasper in eighth, Stephen Jeffrey ninth, and Alex Ellis in 10th. The rest of them will start the same as they finished in the feature. Once again, a short pace lap here, just coming around the final turn, and then off we go. And more importantly, look at the temperatures, Joey. They've definitely come down.
That's going to mean faster speeds. It's going to mean more grip on the racetrack, and going to mean even more that lap 1, just take it easy, get used to the changing conditions out there. And last thing to note as the cars start to roll, we've got a lot of fast cars that are starting further rearward in this feature.
And a few of them that maybe have some positions they wouldn't have had if they had a cleaner sprint race. Will that give them the advantage and maybe a shot at the win if they can go by some of the slower drivers quickly? You never know. We have had stranger situations where slow drivers have been able to hold off fast ones for quite some time, but it's harder to do that at a track that offers so much of a draft right here, as they're now once again going to come over the crest. You can't even see them if you're there in person until they come over the hill right here, and there is the green flag, and accelerating away. Stephen Ritters does not look terribly fast. In fact, Horvath is a little boxed in, so is Asad Nikadambev. Both of the second row can't go anywhere.
That's one of the things here, and oh no, we got problems further back. I believe Joseph Yang turned around. We got multiple cars off in turn 1. The funnel of the turn 1 Road America pit lane strikes again.
So Alex Ellis, that is horrible news for a man that is vying for a championship, who falls all the way to the back. and I do not see any sort of black and orange flag for him. So if he has any damage, it's not forcing him into pit lane early. Joseph Yang also winds up out in the kitty litter. But up at the front, it is Ritters, Kispe, Nikadambev. Oh, but way too deep for Steven.
Yeah, way too deep into turn 5. Everything's still getting warmed up. He holds on to the lead up front as once again a little bit wide, and here comes Kispe, and also Assad Nikadambev wants the lead right now.
Yeah, I wonder if Assad is looking for that opportunity we mentioned behind him, deep on the brakes for Horvath, attacking on Kispe, but can't get the job done. That almost opens him up for Benwillet, but they stay single file as they now head down the hill. Oh, and of course, we got a car in the gravel. That is Kispe.
That was our third place position. Kispe just took too much speed into the carousel, had that understeer, and drove it right off the track.
Wow, so that is going to be a wasted opportunity for him. Unfortunately, is a little bit farther down. You can see a few drivers poking their nose out. Sutherland getting overtaken by Buchanan if he can go the long way around, but he's held up by Broomhead in front of him, and unfortunately that's going to back them up.
Yeah, really big stack up. You see this, about 7 cars all in this group. Zachary Buchanan smack in the middle of it in that number 40, trying to work his way through.
Ooh, another little check up there. This time Mark Boyd, and suddenly that gives Dave Peterson the opportunity to take a 2-for-1 as he goes by Stephen Jeffrey, another driver in a bit of an awkward position as he chases down both of them. Going to pull along behind the 35, and as they break into the first turn, can't quite get the job done. Oh, but he has to avoid coming off the corner as Boyd nearly gets into him, and now he gets into the back of Boyd, who slides off the course.
You're actually going downhill right there. Really tough to stop the car, and up at the lead, we're 3 wide going into turn 5. Now only 2 wide. Assad trying to take the lead away, and looks like he's able to do it. Oh no, too deep. Locks it up and spins it around into the gravel.
It is a day fraught with mistakes from drivers that I thought would handle this one a little bit better. It seems to have really caught out a number of them as we watch the battle for the lead actually continue. Horvath versus Ritters. Horvath now takes it away. Steven gets sent into second, or could it be third, as Benwillet manages to sneak by, but an over-under offers up a chance for the 27 to fight back.
Benwillet took it really deep, and Aiden, you're right, the over-under, really good driving by Steven Ritters, but that's allowed Daniel Salmon to close in that 4th position. Now he's in this battle.
My goodness, this is what Horvath needs, though. He's starting to pull away by about 1.1 seconds. Ritters is messing about with Benwillet, and now Daniel Salmon as they come down to the braking for Canada corner, and he's going to take a defensive line. That should keep him in place for now, but it loses him more time to the 382.
I tell you what, Steven Ritters is doing an excellent job defending. I know that we're only on lap 2 here, but he's not moving his car over on the complete inside line. He's just taking away the middle of the racetrack. And here at Road America, it's actually a pretty narrow racetrack. It makes it very difficult to pass.
Yeah, and it's like you said, it's being pretty effective as well. Benwillet just can't seem to get it done despite nearly going past him at one point. Zach Buchanan, though, takes the fastest lap of the race this time. We'll see as the others come across if that changes. We got some replays because there was a lot happening there at the start. What went down with Ellis, who is still only in 13th place? Oh, he made an overambitious move.
Yeah, so this is a very common thing, and it's when you come down pit lane on the front straightaway, you have all this access on pit exit, but it goes away as it merges onto the racetrack. We've seen numerous wrecks here, and it caught out one more.
Tried to take a lane that wasn't there, unfortunately, and like you said, it really did bite him as we watch Mark Boyd, and there was the near contact, and then unfortunately braked a little bit late, got into the back of Boyd, and he just skitters off into the gravel.
And keep catching these replays here. I know Steven Ritters just spun out of the 2nd place, and here we're catching him coming out of turn 5. This actually might be the issue up through turn 6. He's able to save the race car here, though, and keep it going.
Wow, good catch. I thought that thing was fully going around, although he came back on. I think that was right in front of Peterson and gave him a bit of a scare as we come back live. This is a string of cars that are vying for second place, which is now held by Daniel Salmon. Ben Willits in third. We've got Broomhead in this group, Buchanan's in the bright blue machine, and then Christian Jasper is in the caboose of the train.
I've got my eye on that number 40, Zach Buchanan. He's up 14 positions. Remember, he had that weird issue in the sprint race, so he started all the way at the very, very back of the field, and here he is with a tremendous run on Michael Broomhead in front of him.
He's got the slipstream, but so does Broomhead. They're both chasing Ben Willett, who's going to stay to the inside, popping out, getting wheel to wheel. Looks like Broomhead's going to give him a challenge, but then gets back into line behind him.
It's tricky being the third car in that draft train. You actually have the highest top speed, but it seems like you're never making any progress. It's going to take it around the outside of Broomhead. Look at the traction off of the corner that Zach Buchanan gets. Really nice move.
Brave move there, but he made it stick, and he's trying to bring along Christian Jasper, but he talked about the narrowness of the track. He's got no place to go and all the speed to do nothing with as they break into turn 5, and under braking, unfortunately for Broomhead, just tips into the side of Buchanan, and that just about ends Buchanan's day there.
And I'm just going to bring this down to the car. We've seen these cars get really loose on the brakes in previous rounds, Joe, and I just think it caught Michael Broomhead out.
Yeah, I don't think this was intentional, but boy, this has got to be frustrating for both parties. Michael doesn't race this way, did not want to take a competitor out. Maybe the curb's not helping either. And for Zach Buchanan, he gets sent down to 12th.
And you see just a sudden change of direction. That means he locked the rear tires. Michael Broomhead was just a passenger at that point.
Broomhead still remains in 4th place, but Dave Peterson, this is the drive of the race for me as we watch from on board with Ben Willett here. Peterson's up to 5th, started in 13th, but he's chasing Broomhead, who's also had a number of spots, but Broomhead looks like he's kind of pulling over and letting him through maybe as things get tight. Oh no! And it checks up, causing Jasper to get hit from behind, and now Assad is going to hit both of them. That's Stephen Jeffrey involved.
I feel like I'm watching Talladega out here, Joe, but this is actually an uphill section over the crest of the racetrack, and really tricky to see if you're one of the cars late into the party here.
Yeah, I mean, they get up to about 165 here, so not quite the Talladega speeds, but certainly a fast track, and it's causing a lot of peril like Talladega. And yeah, just behind them, because of the cars going side by side, Assad tried to thread the needle, and unfortunately he missed.
I think I count 4 cars collected, maybe even 5 cars collected in that wreck. Road America, she is being a cruel mistress today.
It really is. Yeah, so there's Jasper. Big hit. Yeah, definitely 4 at the least in that shot that got caught up in it. We're going to get one more angle here from Ohion. Is he the 5th?
Well, yes, and Ohion does go off here. I think it's in avoidance. He's trying to avoid everything going on. I'm not sure if he makes contact with anybody. Just the wall, I believe.
Oh, that is a real shame because he did a good job initially, and then he has a secondary hit, unfortunately, with the tire bundle being in the way. That did send Stephen Jeffrey and Assad Nakatembev into pit lane. We've lost Joseph Yang and Dante Quispe as DNFs. Not sure if we'll see this 23 and the 249 back out on track. Back to Ben Willett, and Salmon's still directly in front of him, but John's a lot closer than what we saw before.
I've been keeping my eye on this battle, Joe, and John is closer, but he's been doing a really good job of just hanging out behind Daniel Salmon, slowly starting to apply more and more pressure.
A lot closer was an understatement through Canada Corner there.
It was a lunge. I saw the lunge.
He's going to follow him out of turn 14 onto the main straight. Ooh, this is a pretty good run, and I think Salmon knows it. He tries to cover off the inside early. Ben Willett follows his tire tracks down into there, off to the left-hand side, looking for the brake marker as it's going to be a battle of the late breakers down into turn 1, and John takes it.
really good move and actually pretty textbook. He had the racing line, was able to break deeper on that rubber, higher grip racing line, and Daniel Salmon almost into the back of Ben Willid going into 3.
Keeps it from going off course. That's the good news. Here's the bad news. Dave Peterson gained about half a second on him right there, and he is already looking like he could attack soon.
Yeah, absolutely. And here we're seeing him go down into turn 5, but Alex Ellis in the slipstream of Zach Buchanan now moves out, makes it too wide into turn 5. These are actually some of the fastest cars that we saw in qualifying, but further back in the pack just due to incidents in both races.
And we have to remember that Buchanan probably wounded out there with a little bit of damage on the car, so it makes it tough for him to hold off Ellis. Now up to P7, which is still actually above where he started in 10th place, so doing pretty well. But he's about 12 seconds off Horvath. That's going to be a difficult ask in the remaining laps to try and catch up as we check back in with Peterson. Just hunting Daniel Salmon. Can the 659 stay on the podium here, or will Dave Peterson's charge continue on up the tower?
We will have to see it. He's right in the slipstream of Daniel Salmon. We just saw Daniel Salmon go too deep into the brakes, and there's a big lunge from Peterson. Joe, these drivers are aggressive on the brakes today.
I almost wonder if he didn't mean to do that, frankly, because Dave probably wasn't thinking he would get that close and then suddenly had to take evasive maneuvers. If he doesn't watch out behind him, Broomhead and Ritters are still close enough that it could become a 4-car fight. In fact, in the background, it looks like Broomhead's going to lose the spot to Ritters. And then here it goes. Nice run from Peterson. No defense from Salmon. Lets him have the inside. And it looks like Peterson's now onto the podium, side by side behind them. As Ritters cannot withhold Broomhead, he will go up into 5th.
Not as textbook back behind. You saw really good defense from Broomhead. Steve Ritters has got to tuck back into the slipstream, try to figure out another way to attack.
In the background, that was Alex Ellis off. He was fighting side by side with Buchanan for some reason. I guess Buchanan had managed to catch back up with him, and unfortunately, Alex Ellis, for the second time this race, is off in the first part of the lap.
Yeah, and Joe, I went back a lap. Alex Ellis went off in the kink the lap prior. That's what gave the position back to Buchanan, and here we're seeing him just go too deep into the brakes on turn 3, get out into the dirty stuff, and off the track he goes.
Been a bit of an uncharacteristic race for Alex Ellis. I think honestly, I feel like he could have done the double here today, but just seems like this feature race is kind of falling apart around him.
And I don't want to speak for anybody. It just seems like sometimes if you go slower, you actually go faster on the racetrack. It's so easy to get hyped up and be over aggressive out there. And I feel like a lot of these drivers, if they just take one step back, they're actually going to go faster.
I'm curious what the lap times are compared to Peterson and Horvath, since Dave's been doing so good in this race, just climbing up position after position. Horvath, yes, has the clean air, but it's only about 6-7 seconds up to Nick Horvath, so it could be enough laps left that we could see the 35 try and chase him down. Unfortunately, it sounds like we've had some timing issues with Horvath due to some connection stuff, so we won't be able to show it, but I'm checking on my screen here. It's consistently in the 2 flat 5s, although he had an errant one, 2:01.3 last time for Horvath. That actually is quite slow. Peterson was about a second and a half faster last time by. In fact, Peterson, does he have the fastest lap of the race?
Alex Ellis back there. Yeah, no, Alex Ellis still holds that, but you're right, Joe. Dave Peterson, that last lap was his fastest lap of the race at a 1:59, and the only car currently in the 1:59. So you're right, he is catching those front 2.
Horvath went wide again up at the very front, down into turn 5. He's losing yet more time as we're watching with Steven Ritters. This is the battle for 5th. That's Broomhead, who recently overtook the spot just in front of him. Broomhead, one of the series organizers here, and does an awesome job getting this all together. We're down to 7 laps to go, and Michael still has a mirror full of the man that he was able to pass and would probably like to make him a little bit smaller in those mirrors now.
Yeah, I love the mirror description that objects in mirror appear to be losing. You know, that's always my favorite one. But Joe, something we haven't talked about this show yet. We're about halfway through. These cars do have to make a pit stop, don't they?
They do indeed, and they tend to be able to make it about 2/3 through before we see them have to make a stop. Just a quick report, we don't have to go there, but Buchanan went off track at turn 8 and has since taken a tow into pit lane. It seems like the day has just gone from bad to worse for him as we watch this fight out of Bill Mitchell Bend, with Salmon leading both Broomhead and Ritters. Remember, Peterson managed to make his way by all of these guys and now really dropped them. It's a distance of about 2 seconds there as he flashes across the timing line down to Daniel Salmon. None of them going to be pitting in this time. In fact, I don't think we've had anybody make a scheduled stop so far.
Not yet, and I'm still continuing to watch that pace of Dave Peterson. Not quite the 159 he had last lap, but only about 0.3 off. He continues to be the fastest car on the racetrack, the number 35.
Just as I said it, Alex Ellis did come in, and I do believe this is going to be a scheduled stop for him. He might have some damage. In fact, I'm pretty sure I saw some scrapes on one side of the car a little earlier as Broomhead tried to go offline, maybe trying to avoid getting into the back of Salmon there, and that cost him a little bit.
And these drivers are making me wince over here. It just seems like with the additional top speed they're getting from the draft, they're just trying to outbrake each other going into the brake zone, and it produces these really big accordion effects, Joe, and when things start to stack up, they stack up really quick.
Gotta keep aware of how far behind you are from that car, just knowing that you're going to be that much closer once you get on the binders. So will he have another moment? Will he maybe have a go at it this time, since he's now figured out I'm actually pretty close here and I could maybe have an attack if I hit it right? Or will Salmon be able to retain this 4th position as they head into the kink that leads you into Canada Corner, and a big wobble from Broomhead. He catches the car, unfortunately puts him under threat from Steven Ritter's behind.
Ritters backs out of it, though. He definitely had momentum, but I think Broomhead was just right in the middle of the racetrack, couldn't navigate around safely. But here we go, Steven Ritters with a really good exit. He's going to be able to be in the draft of Broomhead, get up alongside already, and it's got the track position down the inside going into turn 1. I think this is done.
Indeed, and for Steven Ritters, this will also mean he's back in the lead, because a whole bunch of drivers have just pit. It looks like it's going to be a clean pass down into turn 1, but he still owes us a stop. So does Broomhead. And let's see, looks like Peterson in his stall. Horvath has found his pit stall. We've also got Benwillet in there, Daniel Salmon. And Peterson is back out and running at about 9 seconds. Alex Ellis was 15 seconds, curiously. And out onto the track, it's going to be Nick Horvath, the first to return, and he'll be in 4th place. Who is that off course?
Bill Amaro. I think it's another one of the case, Joe. Rear lockup, too much rear brake bias in these cars.
So he'll get it back onto the course, but definitely caught a bit of the wall there. Let's get another look at it. See if it's as you say. And we're going to watch. So this is Horvath, and this is on board with Amaro. So did he clip the grass, or was it?
I think it's rear lockup. You know,
Okay.
I've seen it throughout the rounds here, and it just, when you have too much rear brake bias and too much rear spring in the car, it can produce an unstable effect on braking.
And in a strange situation, Alex Ellis has had more contact now that he's come out of pit lane and had his repairs. Robert Ridgway down into turn 1 was just exiting pit lane, and the pair of them came together.
Yeah, look at the replay here. Alex Ellis is the car that's on the racing line. We're going to see a car come out, and does he come out onto the racing line? Yes, he does. Yeah.
And that just catches Alex out, and he has to try and save the car, and then the two of them just make slight contact Ellis is currently in 10th position because of his longer stop, having lost a few spots here. And yeah, there's the little bump, and Ridgway just has to bring it back onto the track out of the dirt, and he'll carry on. He's in 12th position right now. Well, it has been a very eventful feature race. I said that I didn't think we'd have drivers get black flags, and I don't believe we've had any yet. But now I'm starting to second guess that assessment from earlier.
There has been a lot of contact, a lot of cars off course, but one thing's for sure, all of these competitors are starting to cycle through their pit stops, and we're going to find out. I believe it's Nick Horvath still out front, and look at this. Dave Peterson was actually able to leapfrog. He's now in second.
Wow, yeah. So Peterson, and I'm trying to remember who was in second before.
I believe it was the Broomhead and Ritter's battle that was going on in front of them.
I think you're right. Wow, that was a quite a big jump then. Peterson now 3.5 seconds off of Nick Horvath, and Nick has been bleeding time bit by bit. He has to survive for 4 more laps. Behind them, Ben Willett going past Michael Broomhead for a podium position.
And got really loose on exit, but Broom had nowhere to go with it, and these cars continue to wiggle-waggle around as the tires fall off.
Remember, John was just shy of a podium in the feature race. Now he's managed to get his way onto there this time. Can he retain it as we watch from Broomhead down into turn 8?
And Joe, I was just taking a look at the weather. The temps actually continue to fall out here on the racetrack and ambient. That's just going to produce higher top speeds for these race cars.
Absolutely, and they have certainly been pushing hard from what we've seen out there, trying to wring every last tenth of a second out of this pavement. Going to be down to 3 laps to go shortly. It's coming to the end of it, and I'm wondering whether or not Horvath will be able to hold on to that top spot as we watch the battle for third. Not too far behind Peterson, frankly, who is the one trying to chase down that 382. But this time by, does look like Horvath put a little bit more time between himself and Peterson. I can't say the same for Ben Willett versus Broomhead, who is probably going to be under threat by the time we get to turn 1 here.
Here comes Broomhead in the slipstream. Little bit of a defensive move from Ben Willett right in the middle of the racetrack. Broomhead opts driver's left, which is the racing line, and he's got him clear by turn 1. Close, but no contact between the two.
John took it in very deep, but thankfully did not get into the gearbox of the double aught there. But that does lose him the podium once again. Back-to-back fourths. Not what I'm sure he's looking for here today. Broomhead, though, excellent stuff here to try and recover. Remember, he started this race from 16th after a bad run in the sprint and has been steadily climbing up. He's gained 13 positions.
And Joe, really slow lap right now from Dave Peterson. I wonder if he didn't put enough fuel in the car, and that's one of the reasons why he leapfrogged so much.
Yeah, that's interesting. It could be that he cut it a little bit tight there, which is going to make life a bit frustrating, especially since he's punching the hole in the air for those behind him, and he goes quite deep down through turn 8, just about keeps it on the circuit, but now it's only half a second between himself and the double lot.
Well, and this could be the opportunity that John Ben Willett wants and needs, because if they go up there and start fighting, he could be there to collect the pieces.
I'm sure he is rubbing his hands together for that one, knowing that he's got a second chance at trying to get back onto the podium. Going to be 2 to go here shortly now. It's still at about 3.5 seconds up to Nick Horvath in front of him. Nick doing an excellent job managing this. He has to try and stay calm. We've already seen a couple mistakes from him, not necessarily on camera, but I know I've seen him go a little wide at a couple corners time and time again. So he has to try and avoid those here. Doesn't want to spin it and give it away right at the very end.
You see all 3 cars just trying to maximize their slipstream, snaking down the front straightaway, following each other. Trying to get the most out of the cars, as that's really when you can gain the most time and then be really aggressive in the brake zones like we've seen a lot of these racers do.
Neither Horvath nor Peterson has won yet this season in either the sprints or the features. So if one of those two winds up with the win, it's going to be a first. And let me check if Broomhead has. No, he has not either. So top three right now are all looking at a potential maiden win.
Things start to compress down there in turn 5. It's all about the run out here, and actually looks like Ben Willett is starting to close it back up on Broomhead just that little bit.
Yeah, he's making sure to keep the pressure on as we watch from on board. We already saw once how much the dirty air can have an effect on the car behind, but he's been handling it quite well. He's staying very close to the rear end of that blue machine.
And here we go down into the kink, all the way downhill through the carousel. One of my favorite sections on the racetrack is this right here, the kink. It's all about just brave. Chuck it in there. Hope it sticks on exit, as we've seen a couple cars dance with the grass there, and it's so tricky with how fast you're going.
Lost a little bit of time, did John. He's not close enough to Broomhead as they tuck it through Canada Corner and then head back uphill out of the trees into the light here. And white flag is being held aloft for Nick Horvath. One last lap to go to get his first win of the season.
Just got to keep it together. Don't even think that it's the last lap. Focus on your marks out there. You got plenty of gap between you and second place. Bring home the bacon.
Understanding that Alex Ellis had another issue. He's still only in 9th place. It's going to be such a missed opportunity for him today and his attempts on chasing both Haynes and Hardman. But for Broomhead, actually, this is going to be not too bad of a day. Yes, he seemed to have flopped a little bit in the sprint, but in the feature, he's looking excellent, as that was a bad exit for Peterson, and Broomhead knows it. He's going to go wheel to wheel as they come down into turn 5, but he's going to have to outbrake him and go the long way around. Can he finish it up through here? Deep on the binders goes Peterson, manages to make the apex, but oh, they come together, and that knocks Peterson into the wall.
Just really good racing all the way to exit. A little bit of contact between the two sends Dave Peterson around, but that means Michael Broomhead second. John Bedwellid now on the podium.
That's not the finish that 35 car deserved, I don't think. He was having such a good race up to there, but yeah, sometimes these things happen. Broomhead looking at second if he can keep Ben Willett behind him, but Nick Horvath is well just about to get himself a first win of the season if he can just go through about 4 more turns.
Just keep it together through one of the trickiest sections. Hard on the brakes here, Joe. And then I mentioned it, the technical top over crest, turn 14. Just keep it on the racetrack as we saw a big wiggle out of our leader.
Trying to make out what his best finish was, but I'll have to dig up those stats maybe post-race here, because eyes on the screen here for the 382. And out of the final turn, I question whether or not he could keep Peterson behind. He didn't have to. A win for Nick Horvath for the first time this season here at Road America.
Looks like Broomhead's going to hang on, and Ben Willett will round out the podium.
Salmon in 4th, just barely ahead of Ritters. Peterson, unfortunately, outside of the top 5. He finishes 6th today, as Jasper will be P7. And just outside of the top 10, James Carter looks like he's going to bring it home on the lead lap. In fact, all 14 of our finishers that actually did get to the end of the race will finish on the lead lap. Everybody else going to wind up as DNFs, it appears. And James looking nice and cool, gaining 4 positions from where he began here today. Nicely done to the number 70 as the lowering sun glints off of that dark black car. Well, we are going to take a quick break here on the Global SimRacing Channel. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so stick around.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to ride around the world.
I'm Mick Claridge, and I'm going to ride around the world on my bike.
My son, he gave me advice at the start of this ride, and he looked at me and just said, "Dad, don't be a moron."
Let me do my animal signal to gain their respect.
How's it going, Sally? Yeah, I'm alright, Mick. How's it going? Worse than that bit in Lord of the Rings where they go into the top and the spiders in the tunnel. I'm just hoping there's a spider at the top of this one to kill me. Freezing.
And I failed. I moroned up the ride.
Welcome back to Road America. We asked whether or not this would give us a good show today. The answer is yes. We had an all-new podium for the feature race as Nick Horvath took his first win and first podium, as Broomhead finished in second behind him with an excellent run through the field. Remember, he started in 16th in this feature race. And then Ben Willett managed to get his first podium with a third place. Daniel Salmon was fourth, and Stephen Ritters, who started on the pole in the feature, slotted back into fifth in the end. Dave Peterson maybe could have finished up there and even could have challenged for the win, but last lap incident sent him tumbling to sixth. Christian Jasper was seventh and Mark Boyd P8. Then it's Alex Ellis, who started from 10th after the win in the sprint and then just couldn't keep the mistakes away, kept having little hiccups and issues with other drivers and only wound up ninth. Robert Ridgway rounded out your top 10.
James Carter there in 11th. We're riding on board with him as he was finishing on that lead lap. Phil Amaro, 12th. Steven Sutherland, 13th. Cedric O'Hayan. Then we get to the cars that had some issues. Zachary Buchanan, multiple laps down. Assad Niketembev, Stephen Jeffrey, Joseph Yang, Dante Keesp, and Marcel Prophet, all with heavy damage early on.
That gives us a chance to talk to Nick Horvath, who won the feature here today. Nick, you made quite a splash there. Your first podium and your first top 10 in the feature race is a win. How about that?
That's just a lot of hard work goes into it, and it just really paid off. I don't know why, but tonight I felt like I was on rails, and the car is just amazing.
Now, we were keeping an eye on Dave Peterson there because he worked his way up into second, and he seemed to be a little bit faster than you. Now, he didn't even end up on the podium because of an unfortunate incident on the last lap, but were you kind of keeping an eye on him as well? Did he make you nervous at all?
Oh, Dave was a major contender that I was worried about. I know, especially Road America, I think the last time I don't know if I raced him here, but I know back when we used to race together in PRL, he was always one guy I always watched out for. So it's always in the back of my mind. I was just wondering what happened, but I knew if I kept the gap up enough, I was going to win. I had a good shot.
And that's exactly what you did. So do you feel like this is going to be sort of a psychological hurdle overcome? Do you expect more good results the rest of the season?
Oh, for sure. It's definitely getting the first one is a load off your shoulders, but I'm hoping I can follow them up with a couple more. Really, I just do all this for fun. So to be able to come out here, race with some fantastic people and a great series, it's all for the enjoyment.
Well, again, congratulations. That was an impressive run in the feature, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you when we head out to future rounds.
Absolutely, hope I'll be back.
That was Nick Horvath, your winner in the feature today. And up next, our second place finisher, Michael Broomhead. Joey has caught up with him.
Michael Broomhead, congratulations on the second place finish here at Road America and your first podium here this series.
Yeah, I mean, thanks. I got there, I guess through through a bit of a mess of a first race, and then not too much clean racing from me. I guess I clipped a few people here and there, and I'm so sorry to Zach and Dave. I get, you're just trying to race side by side, and this thing was a bit lively today, especially on the brake zone on exit. So yeah, made a mistake, but yeah, I'll take it.
Well, trust me, you are not the only person to make a mistake out there. And you're right, your charge to the front here was quite eventful. But not only is it your first podium, second place, you were also, I'm looking at timing and scoring here, the biggest mover, up 14 positions here in the feature.
Oh, that's just down to an awful first race. It was a bit of a mess, and I lost it on my own through no real pressure, just understeered off the track and just crashed. So I sort of, had a deep breath after that one. I thought, okay, so I can't get much worse than this. So I thought, let's go for it and see what I can get.
Well, and looking, I believe next race, I think it's Montreal, which is quite a bit different than here. How's your confidence level going in there? It's got to be kind of riding high, given that you just had a great podium and a good result here.
It should be all right. I've raced the track in real life, one of the few that I have, and it's funny. I'm never really that good at it in sim. It's the high curbs. Maybe we'll set the car up to hit those pretty nicely. But yeah, it should be another draft battle. We've got a few fast tracks, good for drafting, good for overtakes coming up. So it should be a good one.
Well, and before I let you go, anybody you want to say hi to?
Yeah, of course. My family, Mimi, and the girls. And, this series is, an idea that we've had. And Radical came on board, made this an official thing. And we're really enjoying the racing here. It's a lot of fun. So thanks to everybody that's coming out, and hopefully we can keep building from here.
Well, that was Michael Broomhead, your second place finisher here at Road America.
And that takes us to fourth place in the feature, Daniel Salmon. Daniel, it was not something to write home about for the sprint, only 13th, but then from 13th to 4th, that was quite impressive, sir.
Oh, honestly, the first race, I was like, okay, look, let's try and get in the top 10. And then I pooched it. But okay, it happens. I'm sorry, it's Cedric there. I had a little bit of a dive and ran out of brakes. But that second race, just like, yes, like, come on. That was great. Lucky, but great. But I'll take it. That was definitely a pleasant surprise. Very pleasant surprise.
It certainly wasn't short of action. I mean, what were you doing in the heat of the moment? Were you all in, or were you just kind of in survival mode, hoping to get to the end?
I got to be honest, in that main race, I was thinking, okay, the track temp's stupidly hot. I'm hoping people are going to pooch the tires, and then I'm just going to kind of, have some left at the end. And I also didn't want to bin the car because we know I've got form for that. So that was my plan. And I could see, I'd have people behind me and I'd see them, get an inch from my bumper, lock up. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to run out of luck in a minute. And I just didn't. I was so relieved. I had a few moments where I thought it was going to be over. But, what a relief. And just deliberately not trying to push the car too hard, just try and keep it within my comfort level. I definitely didn't have the pace I wanted today. But yeah, obviously that seemed to work better for me. Just keep it on the track, 0x. This is a great plan. New tactic, don't wreck.
Sounds like good advice to me. Well, it'll probably come in handy at Montreal. We're going back to another Canadian track here. So can you keep that up and maybe survive while others fall by the wayside over there?
You see, Montreal, I don't know that track very well. I've never been very good there. So I'm going to hope for the best. I might do a bit more practice for that one. We'll see. started a new job and I'm pretty worn out from it, but it's going to get easier at least. But no, I'll certainly give it my all. I'm hoping we can have Maverick back again soon. I missed having my teammate on the grid, but saying that, if he'd been there, I probably would have stuck him out by accident anyway. So sorry, buddy.
Well, excellent work here today, and can't wait to talk to you when we head up across the border.
I forgot last time I was a naughty boy. I got to thank the gold level sponsors, if that's all right. So when we did that fundraiser, we actually managed to get up to 1,002 Canadian dollars, which is just fantastic. We have somebody from Tim Hortons who sponsored us, Snap-on, somebody who works with the American Red Cross, they sponsored us as well. Falcon Autosport, they do like legit real life track days in the Toronto area. I think they do Mirabel as well. I know they do one in Quebec side as well, but now affordable track days, and that's run by a guy called Drew. He's good people, but I wanted to make sure I thank these people because I should have done that last time. So I just wanted to whoops and recover from that. But that was great. Thank you very much, and thanks for the chat as always.
Got to thank those that helped make it happen. That was Daniel Salmon.
Yes, Mike Broomhead. You're right. Sorry, my bad. Thank you.
Well, I meant that you did. Daniel Salmon there in fourth place. One last one that we want to talk to. It was a little bit better in the sprint than it was in the feature, kind of reverse of what we saw with Sam and Joey's caught up with Alex Ellis.
Yeah, kind of tough luck in the feature like Joe was mentioning, but congrats on taking home that win in that first 15-minute sprint there, Alex.
Hey guys, yeah, thanks. It was good to win the sprint, but no, definitely frustrating in the feature. It ultimately was my mistake. I basically just touched the grass with my right side tires under braking for turn one. But there was a lot going on, some slower cars in front, braking a little bit earlier than I expected, just made it a bit of a rushed situation. So I really wish that didn't happen, but it is what it is.
Well, and I know that you kind of charged your way back through the field after that lap one, turn one incident, but that wasn't the end of your woes. We saw you off the track a few more times. Just what was the biggest hurdle that you had to overcome tonight?
Well, the car was super damaged. So at the pit stop, I had a minute and a half of repairs that I didn't take because obviously there's no way to make up a minute and a half. So my pace in the sprint race, I did 3 158s in a row, like 158.7, 158.8, and 158.8. While in the feature in clear air, the best lap I could do was like a 2-minute 0.3. So I was a second and a half slower due to damage. So that was really tough. And then I guess what it was that the car's handling was way off, right? So I was driving differently to basically make it work and keep it on track. But then as soon as I would have to race anybody, it would put me offline. I'd be having to drive a little bit different. So that's where the car damage really would bite me, because like the one time in the carousel, for example, I popped my nose out wide. I was like 3 feet wider than normal, didn't do anything, and the car just spun. So it was definitely fight for survival out there, and I'm looking forward to a better round next time.
Yeah, and before we let you go, is there anybody that you want to say hi to or thank?
Well, yeah, for sure. Thanks to Satellite Racing. Thanks to Joey Haynes as well. Really helped me out for this race. And then obviously, big sorry to Joseph Yang. Who else was it? Stephen Jeffrey, and I think it was, who was it? Sorry, Robert Ridgway. So yeah, sorry to those 3 guys at the start of the race, and see you next time.
It was Alex Ellis coming home position number 9, but was one of your championship contenders coming into today.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see what the points look like after this one, because it was a weird finish in both races, no doubt. Let's, however, give a quick thank you to the series once again for bringing us on for coverage this season. And thanks to the team today, Ryan, Daniel, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media, our website, and our merchandise store. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. The next race, as we mentioned, is Montreal, Friday, March 3rd at 9 p.m. Eastern. Be sure to check out our other broadcasts listed here. And until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.